You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.
Hello and welcome back to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast brought to you by 90 Min. As ever, I'm your host, Harry Symeou, and I'm delighted to welcome back to the show the brilliant Mike Stavrou. How are you doing, mate? Still on cloud nine?
Yeah, you can see I've got a smile on my face, Harry. Drinking the tears of Spurs fans at the moment.
Love that. Me too.
Tastes good, mate.
Cheers.
Tastes good.
Exactly, it does indeed. We'll get your thoughts on the North London derby, Mike, because obviously it was a huge game, hugely positive performance from Arsenal, lots to be pleased about, lots to take kind of encouragement from moving forward. But there's been some news today with regards to Granit Xhaka, who obviously picked up an injury during that fixture. It was really unlucky, I've got to say, the way the injury come about. And with somebody like Granit Xhaka, you feel like that was the only way he was going to get injured, because he is normally so well conditioned and so good at staying fit. Unfortunately, he took a bit of a knock, and it seems like this knee injury that he's picked up, according to reports, is going to keep him out now for 6 to 8 weeks. Now, of course, the international break is just around the corner, so that you could kind of take 1 week out of that in terms of the weeks that we'll be missing him for. But how much of a blow is this to Arsenal at a point where they were really starting to click, to now lose a player who divides opinion amongst the fan base, but is clearly a key member of Mikel Arteta's squad?
So I think it's a blow, but also I'm sort of sat here a little bit relieved, because when you see a player go down like that, you're starting to think, oh my God, he's done his ACL. And just the way that it looked, it was so horrific. And as you say, someone like Xhaka, it takes a lot for him to go down. Like, he's quite a sturdy bloke. So I was initially worried, and with ACL, it can be anything for as someone who's done it themselves, can be 6 months to 9 months to 12 months. And some players have been out for 18 months. Some players never actually come back the same. So in a way, it is a huge blow. But if you're looking at it from this perspective, we're lucky it's not longer. 6 to 8 weeks, that will get him back comfortably in time for before the African Cup of Nations starts, because I think that was my biggest concern. If you look at the sort of midfield we have going into the season, you've got Xhaka, Partey, Lokonga, El Neni, and Maitland-Niles, and Partey as well. And obviously, the African Cup of Nations would have ruled out Partey and El Neni, which leaves you extremely light in midfield. If you took them two out, you're only looking at Lokonga, Maitland-Niles, and Xhaka. And if Xhaka did get injured, it would have been disastrous. Like, we would have gone through January, which is a really tough time of the year, with two inexperienced youngsters, essentially, which would have been trouble. But I think the way it's worked, it will affect us. But luckily, I think the fixture schedule within this time frame is sort of kind to us. So we should be able to get through it. I've got a lot of faith in the likes of Lokonga to step up, and I actually thought he should have played in North London derby. I actually backed him to play, but I think we should be able to cope.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think when you look at the upcoming fixtures, obviously we've got that trip to Brighton at the weekend. It's a game that I thought Granit Xhaka would definitely play in if he was fit. But then beyond that, there's a couple of home games against Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. There's the Carabao Cup tie with Leeds United. Then we go away to Leicester, another game that I feel like Mikel may have gone for that more slightly conservative midfield with the double pivot. Then Liverpool are just around the corner after the visit of Watford. So I think, yeah, you're right. I think we might get Granit Xhaka back just at the right time. But I guess for me, people have always sort of been critical of Xhaka, and I mentioned it on the podcast yesterday. I was told by some friends in the stadium before kickoff that Mikel Arteta was risking his job by picking him, and actually I thought he delivered a really solid performance at the weekend. And for me, it's one of those things, Mike, where we've got to stop comparing him to midfield players that we don't have, and we've got to look at the situation at Arsenal Football Club, and is he better than most of our options? And the answer for me is yes. Can he be trusted more than most of those alternatives? I think the answer is yes. And so whatever way you look at this, whether you think we're lucky that it was just for 6 to 8 weeks, or whether you think that actually it might be a bit of a blessing in disguise. I think it's impossible to deny that he does have a significant role in this group, in this squad, and in Mikel Arteta's eyes, perhaps most importantly. Moving on to another bit of news that I wanted to get your thoughts on before we do, reflect a little bit more on that North London derby, which we're going to be kind of dining out on now, aren't we? At least for the rest of the week. Thierry Henry was on Sky Sports' Monday Night Football last night, and of course Thierry Henry was caught on camera in the stadium on Sunday celebrating the goals, wearing a fantastic retro shirt, by the way, but alongside Daniel Ek, who is credited with a strong interest in purchasing the club, who, according to reports, has had 2 offers rebuffed by the Cronkies. Thierry Henry had this to say when he was asked about whether or not anything has happened, anything is moving, or if Daniel Ek is indeed still interested. He confirmed that there is no dialogue at the moment, but he did say on more than one occasion, we are here to stay, recognizing that if this is going to happen, this is something that's going to take a long, long time to get over the line. It felt to me like we'd kind of got past this Daniel Ek takeover talk, and I kind of shifted my focus away from the ownership and onto the team as soon as the football actually started this earlier this year. And I don't really want to get dragged back into that whole, is he going to take over? Is he not going to take over stuff? Where are you on it? Is it an unwelcome distraction at this point?
I think it is, because listen, look, football works in cycles, and at the end of the day, when it's going okay, no one looks at the owners and they don't say, our owner's apathetic. They don't say all these things that they talk about with the Cronkies. They don't have an interest in all of this stuff, because plainly, if the team's doing well, you're not really bothered. I think when it started to come to a head a little bit was when we lost 3 in a row. People were saying, we're going to start the Cronky protests, and Mikel Arteta are bored out. It's just this sort of thing with fans that they're quick to jump on things. And I know I'm not discrediting, what fans feel about the Cronkies, because I know that having an owner that doesn't look on the optics particularly interested is not a good thing for a football club. You want someone who's invested, who cares, who shows up. Like I didn't see any sign of Josh or Stan at North London derby, biggest game of the season. I think, talking from a fan's perspective, you'd like to see them there. You'd like to see them supporting the team. So I think it does go around in cycles, and I'm sure the next time when we go for a bad patch, those calls to get the Cronkies out will come back. But for the moment, I think let's just concentrate on the team. I mean, look, this from Henry, I think, could just be a gentle reminder to the Cronkies that, look, we're not going anywhere. We're still here. This little consortium, we want to obviously buy the club. They made that public. Not sure what's actually happened with the bids. X said something, but the Cronkies have come out with statements. We don't really know the ins and outs of it, but it sounds like there's been 2 bids and both knocks back. So it's going to take a huge offer, which at the moment doesn't look like Ek is ready to stump up. So it's going to be a non-mover for a time being. So you're right. Essentially, what is the point in bringing it back up now when it's not going to happen for a long time, if it does happen at all? And it could be a distraction.
Yeah, completely agree. It just feels like, I think you hit the nail on the head there when you said nobody really gives a shit about who's in charge of the club or who owns the club when the team are performing, and when we as fans feel engaged and connected with that team. And I tell you what, that game on Sunday, and I know you were there as well, Mike, which leads me nicely on into that, was the first time in a long time I felt completely engaged with the team. Like I was rooting for every, I'm always rooting for the players, of course, but it felt like I was connected. Like I felt every moment of that performance. I felt every kick, every shot, every tackle. Even when, we were 3-1 up, I felt nervous because I was so kind of sucked into the game. And it's been a while since we as fans have had a performance like that to shout about. Yes, there have been some positive results in recent weeks, but we've never gone, to that level, I don't think anyway, this season under Mikel Arteta, whereby we've been completely convincing. Everything that we've tried has come off. Every sort of training ground routine in terms of playing out from the back that Mikel would have been working on in recent weeks almost came to the fore, and it just all worked like clockwork. First of all, your thoughts on the performance and the positives to take away from it.
Well, mate, it was just such a good day. I mean, all in all, like great experience. My first North London derby in a while, and I agree with you. The atmosphere was the best that I've experienced in a long, long time. I mean, fans standing up throughout the whole game, singing throughout the whole game. I've had Tottenham get battered everywhere they go in my head for the last 2 days consecutively. I've even been singing it at breakfast, mate. Honestly, it's just
Can you give
it's
us
etched into my mind.
Can you give us a rendition? Because I keep getting the tune muddled up, so I know the
Okay,
words,
yeah, I know what you mean.
but
So it goes, Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. Tottenham get battered everywhere they go. Everywhere
everywhere
they
there you go.
go. There you
There
go.
you go.
Should we sing this the rest of the show? Come on.
Might as well. 20
Tottenham
minutes.
get battered everywhere they go. Tottenham. Nah, I wish I could do that, but unfortunately, I don't think people want to hear my voice that long. But no, it's just like it was just so good, mate. Everyone was together. Everyone was, as you say, connected. And I think what we gave to the players gave back to us. I usually sort of think, oh, the 12th man, like, is it real? How much of an impact does it make? But you could see, like, they were responding to us, like they actually were. And like, I was in the clock end. I was watching Ramsdale in the first half, and every save he made, there was a fist bump, there was little looks to the crowd. There was even sometimes in second half as well, like Gabriel was like, telling the fans to get up and sing, and it was, you really could see it. And even like what things we spoke about before the game, like in terms of character, like Ramsdale is the sort of character we want. He already, like 3-4 games in, it looks like he bleeds Arsenal. Like, he is already looking like an Arsenal man, and that's quite weird to say, but it's such an important position for that, because you see the entire game, and the fact that after every tackle, like, he was going up to Tomiyasu and patting him on the back, and Xhaka was getting involved, and they did actually look like a team for a long, long time. And obviously that fed into the performance, because I think I hope that the players know, and I think you can see they know what they're doing under Arteta, but it's whether they've had the confidence to basically pull it off. And I think we saw on Sunday that they had the confidence and everything worked. The flicks around the corners, the one touch. I thought Aubameyang was one of the best, if not the best player on the pitch. Just all the criticisms we've had of him, Harry, we've spoken about this a long time. He's, touch, he's hold up play, he's, ability to link up play. It was all working. Like, it just happened. It all just clicked for him, and he had an amazing game, and it was just a great day, and I just hope it continues, mate.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess, one of the questions I've been asked a lot, I've done sort of various radio shows and stuff since the North London derby, and one of the questions I always get asked is, have Arsenal turned the corner? And looking at what we saw at the weekend, I think it's easy to get carried away and say, yes, we have. Because that level of performance was just so much higher than anything we've seen in the last 6 months. But I can't say hand on heart that we've turned the corner, but what it did do for me, and I don't know about you, Mike, was dispelled the myth that this team don't want to play for Mikel Arteta, that this team don't believe in what it is that he's trying to do, and that there is a big disconnect between the playing staff and him and his coaching staff. Did you get that feeling as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just the fact that it was all instinctive, like they sort of knew exactly what they had to do when players were making a run, like inwards, like Aubameyang was coming short, the players were running off him. They knew what they were doing, and that they believed in it. And I think after a win like that, when you saw the reactions as well at the halftime, at the full-time whistle, and Arteta just going absolutely mental, you could tell that was a sign of relief, but also a sign of this is it, basically. This is what I want from my team. But it's an important point to make, and what you've been asked about. But one thing I just want to mention is that I think a lot of the discourse over the last few days has been so frustrating, because Spurs were terrible. We know that. They vacated the midfield. They allowed us to play. Yeah, that's fine. But we were also great. Like, I think people are not talking about this enough. We played our game plan to a T. We did everything that we could to win that game. I thought the fluid movement, Thomas Partey was amazing in the midfield. Everything was syncing up. And I think by saying Spurs were awful, this is the worst Spurs team, blah, 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 it discredits us a little bit. And I know we were up for it, and it looked like they weren't. But like, do you know what I mean? Just give us a bit more credit for it, essentially.
Yeah, I've got to say, so obviously I was at the game too, and what I normally do when a game is televised, I normally record it and then when I come home, I might not watch the 90 minutes again straight away. I always watch it the next day for the tactical analysis that we do here on the channel, when we put the Spurs one out earlier on today. So if you haven't checked that out, it is the last episode in the feed. Please do. Also yesterday, let me give it a quick plug while I remember, Jeremy Aliadier joined me to discuss the North London derby, a number of individual performances and the wider situation at Arsenal. So please check that one out too. But what I normally do is I normally come home, and this is kind of my ritual. I come home and then I watch the post-match analysis, and then I'll watch Match of the Day later and watch the highlights, and then probably the next morning I'll watch the whole game again. But I just felt like you said, it was so focused on Tottenham and all the bad things that they did, that it did get lost that Arsenal were a very good side, and it did get lost that everything that Mikel Arteta implemented worked to a T. And that is frustrating, because it feels like when the shoe's on the other foot, when Arsenal are performing badly, it's those very same people that want to jump on Arsenal and that want to overblow the shortcomings and turn it into a big, big story. So I completely get where you're coming from there.
Yeah, so we can never win, can we? Essentially,
yeah, exactly.
And it's so frustrating, because it feels like I don't want to start saying this person has an anti-Arsenal agenda, but it very much does feel like that when you focus you go so big on the negatives, and then when we do actually, when you're like, oh, actually the team you played were rubbish. Well, I'm sorry, but yeah, they might not be in the best vein of form, but these are still, top class players. Harry Kane, world class player. Yeah, he's not in great form. Heung-min Son showed his quality. He was one of the better players. Like, they are top players, and yeah, they're not playing to the best of their ability. But I just feel like to sort of minimize what we've done and what we've been building towards the last few weeks. Playing slightly new system and with the new signings, I feel like it's just completely discrediting us, and it's just frustrating, because you want to enjoy it, but all you're getting is people saying to you, oh, well, Spurs are rubbish. And yeah, that's it. That's the only thing I've heard, but I'm not going to let it bother me too much, because it is what it is. We are Arsenal. We're such a big club. This is going to happen, isn't it? We're going to get nitpicked all the time. So you have to accept that, but it's annoying.
We have to try and channel it and use it in a positive way. And I think during the height of the Wenger days, when we were really at the top of our game, I think there was that Arsenal against the world feeling in and amongst our club. I think you felt as a fan like everything we did was criticised. When we were good, we got some credit, but maybe not as much as Manchester United under Fergie would have got. And I always felt that way growing up. So it's kind of a bit of a throwback to that, although this time we're not so good to kind of just let it all run off of our backs. But do you feel like nowadays in 2021, like the role of a pundit has almost changed, and the kind of desire from onlookers for outrage at every single opportunity is driving the way some of these people are looking at games and analysing games, because they want to make sound bites, they want to get clicks, they want to produce that little 1 minute moment, 1 minute rant that's going to go viral on social media.
Yeah.
Do you think that the kind of appetite for it being so high has caused some people who were better pundits, I would say, previously, now moving into a space where they feel they need to be overreactionary?
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And when you ask me, like, what I want from a pundit is someone who's played the game, and I don't want a pundit to tell me what I could have heard from my mates. I want a pundit to tell me what you've learned from the game and how that applies to the situation of the game that you've just watched. Give me some sort of insight as to what a defender sees when he's in that position, when a striker's come in the other way. What do you do? That's what I want to hear from a pundit, because I think that's the reason they're there. They're the ex-pro. They're they're the person who has all this insight, and it's not being transmitted. And as you say, it's very easy to go fire and fury and say this person's rubbish, this person is not very good, and Arsenal, it's a disgrace. Or tell me why. If you break down and actually give me the reasons, rather than just going rah rah rah, this person's crap, tell me how they can do it better, and tell me where they went wrong, and use your expertise and explain that to me, basically, as a fan. That's all you want. And I think again, it just really diminishes the value of watching this sort of stuff. And to be honest, you said you watch like all the pundit analysis. I barely watch it now. You know who I like listening to? Adrian Clark, because I feel like he gives a very reasoned, tactical insight, which is I actually learned from. And yeah, he didn't play, for Arsenal for years and years, but he's honed his sort of expertise, and he's a student of the game, which is what we are. Like, as journalists, as broadcasters, we love football, we analyze it, and the reason that we do so much research is so that we can speak with some sort of knowledge, and so people can learn something when they hopefully learn something when they hear from us. But and when you go on TV, sometimes all you get is your mate from the pub analysis, and that's not what you want.
Completely agree. As you say, when I watch analysis, I want to learn something. I want to take a point away with me that I didn't come up with by myself. Or if I did come up with it by myself, I want a little bit more context around it. I want a little bit more sort of flesh on the bones of it all. And there's a few people in the chat mentioning certain pundits. We won't go into any names because we'll probably get in trouble. I nearly got myself in trouble the other day. But completely agree. Let's take some of your questions for the last sort of 8-9 minutes of the show. While you guys get your questions in, please do hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel if you're new. Make sure you give Mike a follow on Twitter as well. You'll be able to see his handle on the screen. If you're listening via audio, it's Mike_Stavrou. That's STAVROU. Mike, just finally, while we're waiting for a couple of questions to come in, you said that Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang was probably the best player on the pitch. Would you stick by that? Is he your man of the match? Because he was the one I thought was the man of the match when I came out of the stadium, and then I've gone back and forth on it about 4 or 5 different times, and now I don't know.
I thought you were going to give me an answer. What are you thinking maybe Tomiyasu, or a lot of people saying Tomiyasu?
I thought Tomiyasu.
Ramsdale.
Yeah, I thought Tomiyasu. I thought Ramsdale. I thought Odegaard, just for the sheer work rate. I thought Thomas Partey at various points. I guess the Aubameyang shout is probably just the right one for me. But what was it that you saw from Aubameyang this time around that really kind of, made you warm to him after, months of us talking about him maybe not being in the races?
Yeah, I think he basically just turned up and played to the best of his ability. Like, as simple as it is, I feel like a lot of the time we don't see that from Aubameyang, but for whatever reason, the North London derby, he just absolutely loves it, and he tends to turn up more often than not. And it was the pressing. Yeah, fair enough. Odegaard was the one doing that on the front foot, but Aubameyang definitely contributed. In I think it was the second goal, his goal in the build up, the little flick around the corner to set Smith Rowe free. He's not really done that enough. It, like, everything just came off essentially, but like even just like out jumping like the likes of Davinson Sanchez for headers, like you wouldn't on paper say Aubameyang gets to that, but he was there, he was doing it, he was leaping, he just gave it his absolute all, and you were reminded of the class of the player. And I remember a few weeks ago we were saying, who would you start in the Premier League? I think it was with the Burnley game. Would you say Lacazette or Aubameyang? I don't think it's even a question now. I think Aubameyang starts, because just based off that performance there, he's got a few goals this season as well. And all we need is his confidence back, because that was one of the areas I was looking at in the summer, saying we need a striker. But if we have Aubameyang on song, I don't think we do.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I think he's proven that he can do the role, and he's proven, just like we said about the team in general earlier on, that there is no rift between him and Mikel Arteta, and that he's quite happy to carry out his instructions. Let's take some of your questions then for the last 5. I want to just quickly address this one from Obote, who says that we may have won the derby, but when will Arteta learn to get his substitutions right? I think this is a really harsh criticism that Mikel always has thrown in his direction. I thought maybe on Sunday he could have made a change 5 minutes before he did. And I think maybe if he did that, Spurs might not have pulled the goal back, but that's me being a hindsight merchant. He then had to make a change when Xhaka picked up that injury. I thought at Burnley, his substitutions were spot on in terms of helping us see out the game. So I think this is a bit of a harsh criticism. Is that something that you've got an issue with when it comes to Arteta, his substitutions?
Nah, I mean, I'm not trying to dig this guy out, but he seems like someone's just trying to get something over on Mikel Arteta for the sake of it, because it was a flawless North London derby. No, I didn't see anything wrong with it. I thought the Tavares sub was quite smart. He gave us quite a lot. That guy is another one who's just, will give you absolutely everything. Nuno Tavares, he's a bit raw, but he's what we needed at that time. No, I didn't see anything wrong with the substitutions at all, no.
Completely agree. Let's take this one from Brad, one of our members. He says, out of the new players, who impressed you the most? For me, I would say out of the new players, it was Tomiyasu at the weekend. Would you agree with that, Mike, or have you got someone else in mind?
I think Ramsdale, just because of what I was saying earlier, because he made that big save from Lucas, and that kept the score at 3-1. Probably wouldn't have changed the game if they got back to 3-2, but at the time it was a big save. And as I say, just like the organisation and the character, the big character he's got, and what he's bringing to the dressing room, no doubt. I think it's got to be Ramsdale, because we spoke about it last time as well. Like, I did not expect him to be starting in the North London derby. And already displacing Leno, it looks like, as number one. I did not expect that whatsoever. And I think a lot of people eating humble pie on Ramsdale at the moment, because he was getting a lot of criticism when we did that deal. Yeah, we did sort of question it at a time, but never got to the place where it's like, we're not going to give him a go. Of course, we're always going to give him a chance, and so far he's been near flawless. So
yeah, you're right. Let's take this one from Michael Hudson. He says, do you think we can rest and rotate in key positions now? Defense, midfield and attack, Oba for Laka, White for holding, etc., etc. I actually think, Michael, that for me, one of the good things about not having European football, if there is any kind of silver lining, is that we don't have to rotate that much, and we can at least now try to build some relationships on the pitch. So I'd be, unless players desperately need it, if you're mostly playing one game a week, I'd be actually quite opposed to rotating a lot. What's your take on that, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I want to just see the team play as a unit and get used to each other and just really rip teams apart. I think you can sort of afford to do that with the forward positions a little bit more. I think you can rotate that against different opposition, but the back four, I want to see that back four play every game, or back five, even if Ramsdale. Someone just dropped a comment on Saka. Chris says Saka on the right looks better, and I actually have to agree. Like, just talking about that sort of rotation, I think he made so much of a difference playing on the right, and just gives us so much more than, unfortunately, what Pepe's not been giving us at the moment. Just that direct play, the sort of trickery, the ability to go inside, outside, scored as well, set one up, and near flawless display from him as well. So that's going to be a headache for that one now, because do you move Saka off the right now when he's had such a good performance, but then you leave Pepe on the bench? I don't know. It's going to be a tough one for Mikel now.
Well, I thought Pepe performed quite well last season when he got put on the left, so I wouldn't be adverse to doing that and giving that a try. But listen, it's going to be a long old season, and there are going to be injuries, and there are going to be players that have dips in form, and there are plenty of games for all of them to get sufficient game time. So, I've read a couple of tweets and seen a couple of kind of discussions today where people are saying, well, we probably need to make a decision now on what we do with Nicolas Pepe. But the reality is we're getting ahead of ourselves. Bukayo Saka was great at the weekend, but he's not going to play like that every single week. Neither is Emile Smith-Rowe. And one of the things I've always said, and I stick by this, they delivered on Sunday, but over the course of the season, those two young lads are going to have ups and downs. And I think somebody like Nicolas Pepe still has a massive role to play if we're going to achieve our goals. I'll just take this question finally, and we'll just get this one done quickly, Mike, so we can wrap up, because we are pushed for time. But this one comes from Steve, who says, if Oba can get back to the sort of form he did a couple of seasons ago, can we dream of a CL spot, or is it a step too far? I think that it is a step too far. I think there is a clear top four in the Premier League now. And so my goal and my ambition for Arsenal is to qualify for the Europa League, finish in the top six, and close the gap on that top four, rather than necessarily break into it. If we do it, great, but I think it might be a step too far. Your view?
Yeah, I mean, I even think that the top six will be a struggle, to be honest. And, I'm absolutely on a high off the North London derby, but let's just be realistic. Like, you saw at the start of the season, you saw, three losses in a row. Right, two of them were probably the two best teams in the league, but Brentford was poor. And I just think we've seen, unfortunately, not to bring the tone down, but we've seen this before. We've seen us put in a worldie performance under Arteta. We saw it against Chelsea on Boxing Day, and then we saw it away at Old Trafford. And we've not followed that up. So now the real test is if we can go and build up a solid run now of wins in a row, and so we go into like the next big game, which is probably Leicester, in a world of confidence, and then we beat them. And then I'll start to say to you, I think top six looks realistic, but I still think it will be a struggle just because that consistency has not been there. Maybe it will be different now because we don't have the sort of burden of a midweek Europa League game. But for the moment, I'm just sort of taking it week by week. And I wouldn't be surprised if we go and, drop points against Brighton, because that's going to be a tough game. Plainly, they're a really, really good team, well-coached team, and it's not going to be easy. So I think if people go into that thinking, oh, we steamrolled Spurs and won the North London derby, like we're going to walk over Brighton now, I think they'll be in for a little bit of a surprise. So let's just sort of keep our heads and it's a long season, as you say.
Absolutely. Let's keep our feet on the ground. Right, we are going to leave it there. Mike, thank you so much for joining me as always, mate. Just give people a quick reminder how they can follow you on social media.
Yeah, so if you go to Twitter at Mike_Stavrou, I'm now verified like Harry. So
hey,
you can trust me. I've got the seal of approval.
There you go. Good stuff. Right, we'll be back very, very soon with more Arsenal related content. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.
You're listening to the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast.
I'm Martin Tyler, and you're listening to Harry Symeou.